what are coincidences?
Yeah, I tend to think of them as these events that they're not blatantly paranormal, but there's something going on there that won't let us look away. So we have maybe two things that happen in our life that seem like by themselves they're totally normal events, but they have a similarity of meaning for us that's so strong that we have a hard time believing that they can't be connected in some way, even though we can't see any normal way that they could. Most people would say they were just chance, but the meaning and the significance for our lives, usually there's a very strong emotional connection to whatever is happening. It's so strong that we just find ourselves wondering, well, what's behind this? There must be something more than I am able to see at this moment. So we have to investigate further.
Are they signs from the afterlife, from the angels or our guides, potentially?
I think they very well can be. Part of what I am trying to do in my book, so it's called The Source and Significance of Coincidence. So in the whole first section of the book, I'm trying to ask this question, well, where do they come from? What is the source of them? And I think there are many different answers. I think I have, 9 or 10 different chapters, each one about a different possible source. And so I try to provide some context for helping people figure out what the source of their own coincidences might be. So some of them, yes, I do think are actually ways for people who have died to communicate with us, people that we've loved and who've loved us. I think some other coincidences actually can be communications from other living people, but that we're out of touch with for whatever reason. Maybe they live very far away, or we just haven't seen them in a while, and something will happen that seems very clearly connected to them and carries a message for us, and we're like, oh, I really should get in touch with this person. And then you get in touch with them and it turns out, they were thinking of you, or there was something important going on in their life they wanted to share with you. So that's a definite source. And then there are these other more amorphous coincidences, a little bit harder to pin down. They seem to be coming from some larger intelligence. And some people would automatically say, oh, well, that's God. If you have a belief in a particular deity. I tend to like to steer away from that word because I don't know. I like to stick to the evidence. So the evidence that I see is that clearly there is some personality interacting with us that is very intelligent and that seems to be beneficent. It is trying to help us in various ways, but I don't want to put a label on it just yet. So sure. I give this whole there's a chapter about God and sort of universal being, but then I have a chapter about angels and guides. And I don't think it's always clear exactly who it is in each case, but I think we do have helpers of some kind that are wiser than we are.
Thanks. Thank you for answering that. And you kind of touched on it, but what can they teach us?
I think the main thing that coincidences teach us, each of us has some, very specific individual lessons that we may need to learn, but overall, looking at lots of different people, I think the main thing that they teach us is how to listen to our own intuition and how to listen to our own heart. And that certainly has been the case in my own life because I tend to be a very analytical person. I've got like a PhD in philosophy, and not just any kind of philosophy, but specifically analytical philosophy is what it's called. Okay. So I'm very much into analyzing and systematizing and breaking things down, very much in my left brain. And so in my life, I wasn't in touch with my intuition very much. Like I didn't feel like I was psychic in any way. But then I started having these coincidence experiences and these things that were, manifesting in the external world strongly enough to get my attention and make me pay attention to what they were saying. And it was through that process of paying attention to the coincidences and seeing the patterns that I started to clue into my own intuition. So I think coincidences can direct us to listen to ourselves. But even that process of learning how to listen to your own intuition can be a little bit difficult, a little bit fraught. The question a lot of people have is like, how do you know what a coincidence is telling you? So I think that tuning into your intuition and your heart and your passion, as you talk about in Passion Harvest, that is so important. And if you're going astray and you're not, living your best life, you're maybe just doing what you think is expected of you, or what you have to do for some reason, then often coincidences will come around to just alert you to the fact that there are other possibilities. Or sometimes they'll even come around to make you more uncomfortable in your situation, to push you out of it. So if in your life you feel like, well, every time you feel like you get in the same situation over and over again. So like every job I have, this happens to me and I just turn out to be miserable and this and this. Yeah, or you have the same thing happen in each relationship. It's not just a coincidence. It's not just chance. There's a message there for you. You need to understand what that pattern is and how can you make a choice that moves you away from that pattern. I think there are real lessons in the coincidences or the not so coincidental things that we experience. And we're not always ready to hear it the first time around, or the second time around, or the third time around. A lot of us, we have to get to our breaking point, the point where we're so frustrated or we're so miserable that we're willing to take the risk to do something different in our life. And that's okay. Everybody moves at their own pace. But ultimately, I think those coincidences can break open that shell that's been keeping you in that uncomfortable situation and guide you down another path. And also, once you take one step in that other direction, once you say, okay, I want something different, I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to take a step in another direction, often you'll find that suddenly the coincidences start happening, but in a more positive direction, and they're there to help you along and to provide you new opportunities in that new way.